Welcome into an all-new episode of the Combat Sports Report here on SportsGrid. I'm Brian Ciano. Thank you so much for joining us as we take our weekly look at everything going on in the world of combat sports. We got BKFC, we got MMA. We're covering it all here today on the show. We had 3 different cards in the time that we were off. That's right. Took a little hiatus last week while SportsGrid was down in New Orleans covering the Super Bowl. Great job by everybody involved there. But now we are back, and we have 2 BKFC cards, plus a Lights Out Extreme Fighting card, and some big news coming out from the PFL, all in the last few weeks. So let's get right into it and talk about it all. Coming up on the show later on, we're going to talk to Andrew Strode, the flyweight from the BKFC, who got a great win up at Mohegan Sun a couple weeks ago, February 1st. We'll recap his fight over Tyler Rookie Randall with him. We'll also talk to Lights Out Extreme Fighting flyweight Royce Butler, who got a big win over Corbin Allen in his debut this past weekend. We'll also recap both those cards, both the Mohegan Sun and the Newcastle for the BKFC, as well as Lights Out Extreme Fighting 22. And we'll look at the first 2 brackets being released by the PFL for their tournament this upcoming season. And of course, as we said, everything's changing with the format of that one. We'll recap all that later on the show. But first, let's get right into the action we saw these past few weeks, starting with the Mohegan Sun BKFC on the zone, headlined by Julian Let Me Bang Lane versus Cameron Jumpman Van Camp. Now, in this one, you had a situation where both these guys were coming in on win streaks, and one of those had to end, and that was Cameron Van Camp's, as Julian Lane gets the 4th round TKO, a knockout with 54 seconds in there, as you see the great right hand that he lands on Van Camp. It was very interesting the way this fight worked out. I mean, round 1, lots of feeling out, not many punches thrown, both these guys trying to find their way in, respecting the other's power, and because of that, I gave it to Van Camp. I felt he was coming a little more forward and got a few more punches at the end of the round. So I thought he was ahead there. Second round, Van Camp doing some nice lead uppercuts that hurt Lane a few times. There was even, you saw CVP point him out, that he'd land one and you see kind of Lane shake it off a bit, but Van Camp pointing at him like, I know I got you. So I thought, again, he took the round 10-9. And his corner's telling him that, watch out. Julian Lane's going to get desperate. We know that Julian Lane has always been a slow starter in a lot of these fights. He comes on the last few rounds. Round 3, again, though, going to Van Camp on my scorecard because he was more aggressive. He was trying some big shots. Lane was, of course, but still, Van Camp was landing from the outside. That was the big thing, was the reach advantage for Van Camp throughout this fight early on. He was picking apart for the outside. Julian Lane was throwing some big haymakers, but he wasn't able to land before Van Camp got out of the way using that extra reach. So I thought that Van Camp got a couple good shots before the end of the round again, was able to avoid a lot of the big shots of Lane, even landed a good shot, later in the fight that maybe cut Lane up a little bit. So, again, 30 now, 27 in the favor of Cameron Van Camp to me after 3 rounds. Again, getting warned by his corner, watch out, this guy is going to go for broke. And what happens in round 4? Well, 40 seconds in, Lane lands a big right hand that we're going to see right there that drops Van Camp, and you can see in trouble from the moment he hits the mat. Chris Lights Out Lytle even said, I don't think he's getting back up. Once he saw him go down, the way his face was there, he did not think he was going to answer. He did not. Julian Lane gets his 4th victory in a row. It's an amazing comeback story for this guy. I mean, he lost 3 in a row, then 5 of 6, 7 of 9, then sat out 18 months. Part of it kind of imposed by the commissions, I feel like. I think there was at least a fight or 2 there that he was supposed to come back for because the guy just loves to get in there and brawl. And the commissions are like, you know what? This guy needs some rest. He's been getting smacked around a bit. Since then, now he's on a 4-fight win streak, beating guys like Angulo and Van Camp, who was on a 2-fight win streak himself. So Julian Lane climbing up into the rankings now, coming from the depths of this division now to becoming one of the top 5. Said afterwards in the ring that he wants Jeremy Stevens or Mike Perry or Jimmy Sweeney. And let's see what he talked about coming out of the ring and heading back to the locker room.
So my mind, I'm just ready to go to Dubai, man. Send my ass to Dubai. Let me fight Mike Perry. Let me fight Jeremy Stevens, Austin Trout, somebody in Dubai.
But we gotta get paid.
Oh, we always get paid.
You see him there ready for packing those bags and traveling. He wants to go on the road. There's going to be a big card out in Dubai, I believe, at the beginning of April. He wants on that. He wants Mike Perry. We'll see if he gets it. He talked in the article they wrote about him on the BKFC site, in the interview he gave about how he thinks that any of those guys, Stevens, Perry, they're just a stepping stone to getting to Trout in that title. He wants that belt. That's the end goal for him. We'll see if he gets one of those guys for his next shot or not. Then the co-main event, you had Irish Brendan Ward, the local guy, against James Knucklehead Dennis Ward, was making his debut for the BKFC. Dennis was on a 2-fight win streak. That win streak is now over as Ward beats Dennis by TKO in the first round, 38 seconds in. Look at these shots that he lands there, and that's the end of the fight. You know, both guys were trading in the center early on. Dennis might have thrown the bigger shots and landed more early, but about 20 seconds in there, first Ward kind of clips him with that left that you're not seeing from that angle. It was like kind of a weird shot. Might have broken his nose because right away Dennis grabs that nose, and then he throws a couple more, puts him to the mat, and that's the end of the fight there. And he wins in his BKFC debut in front of his hometown Connecticut fans. Great job by him. Then a feature fight at middleweight, you had Will Santiago versus Dakota Cochran. Santiago was 2-1 coming in. Cochran, 3-fight win streak. Cochran gets the third round TKO victory 1 minute and 3 seconds in. He was chasing Santiago early on, trying to avoid the big shots with Santiago while Cochran was trying to stalk him. Dropped him with a left just before the end of the round, so 10-8 Cochran after the first. Cochran continued to come forward, lands a big combo that drops Santiago in the second, almost saved by the ropes, but still goes down later, ruled a slip. Again later, Santiago swinging wildly while Cochran avoided and started picking him apart from the outside. Hit him with some uppercuts in the half clinch just before the end of the round to put him to the mat finally for the first time in that round officially. Now another 10-8 round, so obviously big in the favor of Dakota Cochran. And Santiago came out swinging in that third. He knew it was desperation time already, but just before 1 minute, Cochran caught him with the straight left jab to the chin and dropped Santiago, and he does not get back up. Cochran, for his part afterwards, calling out the champ, Dave Mundell, who was in attendance there, wanting the redneck, wanting a shot at the title. We'll see if he gets it now. 4 fights in a row for him, rising in those rankings. You got to give that guy some respect, and maybe he is the one to get that title shot. Obviously, guys like Mike Perry are in front of him, but he does not seem eager to fight the redneck. He wants big names, guys that can bring in big money, that have big followings online. It's not necessarily the redneck Mundell. He is probably the best in that division. Donald Sanchez we'll see fight in a couple of weeks out in, of course, New Mexico, where we always see him fight. So Dakota Cochran, number 2 on that list. Does he get the next shot at Dave Mundell? We will see. Then at featherweight, you had Rico DeSulio versus Anthony the Hitman Foy. DeSulio making his BKFC debut. Foy was on a 2-fight win streak. DeSulio gets the victory, though, stops the win streak. Third round TKO for him, 1 minute and 8 in. Both guys are throwing early, but DeSulio was much better in the exchanges. He was much cleaner with his boxing, letting some good shots just before the round ends to drop Foy for the first time there. Second round, DeSulio starts picking him apart again, and just 1 minute into the fight, into that round, he goes down. Rolled a slip, but then minute, he gets right back up. The second he gets right back up, DeSulio jumps right back on him, lands the big shots. That one's ruled a knockdown, and he continues to pepper him until the round's end. And then, as you see there in the third round, almost right off the scratch, DeSulio drops him. Second time later on, drops him with 1 minute left. Then, right after he gets back up, drops him a third time. And then at that point, 5th knockdown of the fight, ref waving it off. It is over, and it goes in the favor of DeSulio. Then we had another interesting debut for the BKFC. Jorgen De Castro, the Mad Titan, coming from the UFC to the BKFC, making his debut against Bobby the Zombie Brents. De Castro gets the victory, the second round TKO after the second round, as Brent's corner decides that is it. He does not want more. Castro is coming forward. Both guys are patiently waiting in that first round, kind of feeling each other out, expecting the other to throw some big power, respecting that power, not much action. I gave De Castro the round because he was the one coming forward, but then in the second round, the left jab for De Castro was killer. It's not the most powerful shot, but sometimes a stiff jab can do enough damage. And he continued to do that. Knocked Brents to a knee with a right hand above his left eye. Continued to hit him even more. And as you saw that round go on, huge hematoma forming over the eye of Brents. That is what ends it after the round, as the ref sends him to the doctor in between rounds. And the doctor says, no more. This guy's growing a second head. That's the end of the fight. De Castro getting his first victory for the BKFC.
Your gut says Miami is going to win, and you should take the over. Your gut also said your NFT selfies would only go up in value. They didn't. But your head is on SportsGrid and knows the QB is in concussion protocol. The backup has a 45 QBR against the zone coverage. the New York D has the most sacks in the league. So yeah, trust your head. It's smarter to be on SportsGrid.
You want me to solve all this tush-push and fourth down malarkey that goes on with the officials? Here's a crazy idea. Get rid of the worst rule in the NFL, and that is forward progress. How about this? Where I knock your ass in the ground is where the ball goes, period. Let's end this whole conversation. Like, if I drop you back 4 yards, then you lost 4 yards. If we get rid of forward progress, this tush-push and everything else is taken care of. Where I put your tail on the ground is where the ball goes, end of conversation. It's the dumbest rule and the most arbitrary rule. The only thing that is a worse call in the NFL than forward progress is the punt that goes out of bounds when you watch the official walk down the sideline having absolutely no clue where that ball crossed over. All I can think of is that Price is Right game go do-de-do-de-do, do-de-do-de-do, as he's walking down the sideline, arbitrarily trying to figure out where the ball crossed over because he's got no clue.
The Early Line, only on SportsGrid.
There is going to be an energy to game time decisions that you will feel night in and night out. We're going to go through every single thing, and I've got a great team behind me that's going to help me get the job done. I want this to be the place that people come to. We are going to hit every single one of those markets that you need to know about. There is not going to be a better place, I promise you, than Game Time Decisions. We will have everything at our disposal, and we will use that to our advantage. I'm Kevin Walsh. Tune into Game Time Decisions from 6 to 8 p.m. Eastern on SportsGrid.
Welcome back to the Combat Sports Report here on SportsGrid. We had a couple great cards while we were away for the BKFC. We just recapped that one up at the Mohegan Sun up in Connecticut. One of the guys who showed how tough he is and got himself another victory, maybe putting himself in into the title contention. Talk is, of course, Andrew Strode, Legend Strode here, who joins us now on the show. Andrew, thanks so much for your time. A great win for you over Tyler Rookie Randall. It was a very technical fight for both of you guys throughout the fight, but I think the big thing for you obviously was the pressure coming forward, putting him on the back foot. I think that helped in the eyes of the judges. Was it always the plan for you to kind of come forward, put him on that back foot, and then just look for those openings to try to pick him apart throughout the fight?
Yeah, it was a good fight. You know what I mean? My goal was to either knock him out, you know what I mean, or put him on his backside, but that didn't happen. You know what I mean? He's a great contender, a great fighter, and it had to go to the decision, man. I was trying to keep pushing forward and hitting him and left, right, hooks, everything, and he wouldn't go down. And I was like, man, I had to figure something else out. And I was trying to go for the knockout, but it didn't plan out.
Well, it seemed like you were in control for, much of the fight, if not all of it at least. Obviously you get it on the judges' scorecards. They give you a unanimous decision, 50-45, all three. I mean, if you're looking for it the other way, if someone was rooting for him, maybe they could have given him a round at best. I think that you were in control all of it. I agree with them on that. But were you surprised by the way he fought, that he never made that adjustment, that he never maybe got a little more desperation? I mean, when I was watching the fight, I think it was after the third round, his corner was basically telling him, like, you got this, you're doing great. It's like, are you guys watching the same fight? Because to me, he's down all three cards. Like, what's going on here? Like, do you think he just had too much confidence in the way he was fighting to switch it up and, put a little more pressure towards you?
Yeah, he had a lot of confidence fighting me, you know what I mean? This is bare knuckle, you know what I mean? This ain't boxing. Any punch can knock anybody out in the sport, and that's what I love about it. And honestly, he was coming forward, taking all my hits that I was giving him, so it was like very, very hard to knock him out. So he had combos coming in, pressuring me, and I thought he was gonna bring more pressure than he was at first, but then he didn't. So I was like, man, I gotta step on it. So then after like the third round, I kept going forward and tried to knock him out, hit him with a couple of rights. He wouldn't go down.
Yeah, you got some good punches there at the end of the third round, and I saw, you were trying to bait him in. You were trying to get him to do more action. I felt like in that second round, you were sticking that chin out a little bit with the hands down, kind of tell him, like, go ahead, swing. You wanted him to get involved and maybe open himself up a little more so you can throw some bigger shots. But, were you surprised that he didn't take the bait? Or were you surprised that he never, flipped a switch at some point and said, all right, I got to do something to really show that I am in control of this when he was backing up the whole time?
Yeah, he was cautious, you know what I mean, coming in. That's why he wasn't engaging at the whole fight, you know what I mean? Because I was bringing it to him instead of normally me just being on the outside hitting people. I wanted to be the aggressor of this fight, and I was. I thought he would bring more like grit. He was fighting more like a leprechaun the whole time, and I was like, man, it was hard to get in at first because I didn't want to get caught, but I had to just pot shot him and go forward, and that was the only thing.
Well, you do get the victory, you get the decision, but you know, even though I'm sure you're happy with the win, I saw you talking after the fight, doing interviews for the BKFC on their app and on the website, the article there that they have about your victory. You said you gave yourself a C. So what were, you know, the things that you think you really want to improve on and you want to, you know, show in your next fight that people didn't see up at the Mohegan Sun?
I actually want to show people that I got knockout power. You know, I mean, I'm skinny guy, tall, lengthy guy. My next fight, I would love to fight John Dodson and show people that I'm here to stay. You know, what I mean, I'm the one of the greatest 125 and BKFC fighters on the roster. They just need to feed me more, and I'll keep winning.
Well, we'll see if you get that opportunity. Now you are in the rankings, although I did notice that surprisingly, it still kind of have you right there with Randall. I mean, you beat the guy, and you can't get jumped over him, and you can't get you know, that spot above him for some reason. Why do you think that you didn't get the love here in the latest rankings that have come out, where they have him 3 and you 4 on the BKFC website?
I think it's because I didn't get the KO. You know what I mean, on my side. I could have. That's what the goal was going into the fight, and I didn't get it. So the people think, oh, maybe Strode don't got power, maybe Strode this, and it was just one of those fights, you know what I mean, that was back and forth action here and there, and it was a competitive fight, so I didn't get to show me what the grit I got like my first 2 fights, so everybody thought I was gonna get the third round, third victory stoppage, but I didn't.
Well, you say you want Dodson, you want the Magician. I mean, obviously we saw a great fight between him and Aguero that ended up in a draw, whether, you know, I thought maybe a little controversially. I thought there could have been some other knockdowns that might have shifted it towards Aguero, but he is the one with the belt right now. What do you think? I think you've shown enough to Dave Feldman, the BKFC, that they should not rematch that one and get you in there? Or what do you think's holding up, you know, that fight or someone else fighting that for that title with the Magician? Because, I mean, he had that fight, that crossover fight they had with Risen, but still has not defended that title again after the first Aguero fight.
Yeah, I feel like I'm next up for the belt. You know what I mean, rankings don't really mean anything in my eyes. You know what I mean, everybody comes to fight, but I really think I'm up next for the belt. Even if they want me to fight Aguero or whoever they want me to fight, I'll show them that I deserve the belt. And once the belt comes home to Denver, it's staying here forever, for a long, long time, because I'm here to stay also.
Well, if they don't give you that fight for whatever reason, you know, would you rather wait for that shot, or would you rather get in a fight as soon as you can, you know, get more work in, show more of what you didn't get to show in this fight? Because obviously, you know, you didn't take much damage from what we can see. It didn't look like you landed that many punches. What's the priority for you? Keeping active and getting another fight, or getting that title, whether you have to wait for it or not?
I honestly just want the title. You know what I mean? 3 fights and nobody has won a round against me in BKFC. I feel like I deserve a title shot. You know what I mean? Really want John Dodson. He's a legendary, and me and him will be the best fight of BKFC and in the history of BKFC also.
Andrew Legend Strode gets the victory over Tyler Rookie Randall up in the Mohegan Sun. Thanks so much for joining us. Continuing your winning streak, 3 in a row now. We're looking forward to seeing what your next fight will be, hopefully again soon. We can get you back in action with the BKFC.
Thank you for having me.
There is going to be an energy to game time decisions that you will feel night in and night out. We're going to go through every single thing, and I've got a great team behind me that's going to help me get the job done. I want this to be the place that people come to. We are going to hit every single one of those markets that you need to know about. There is not going to be a better place, I promise you, than Game Time Decisions. We will have everything at our disposal, and we will use that to our advantage. I'm Kevin Walsh. Tune into Game Time Decisions from 6 to 8 p.m. Eastern on SportsGrid.
Your gut says Miami is going to win, and you should take the over. Your gut also said your NFT selfies would only go up in value. They didn't. But your head is on SportsGrid and knows the QB is in concussion protocol. The backup has a 45 QBR against the zone coverage. The New York D has the most sacks in the league. So yeah, trust your head. It's smarter to be on SportsGrid.
But if it ends up being 1 versus 2, which seems likely because the Cavs have a 5.5 game lead over Boston, the Celtics 3 games clear of the New York Knicks.
They're not unstoppable, not running away with everything, but for them to blow a 5.5 game lead on the backstretch in the NBA, already being a quality team outside of disastrous injuries, I don't buy that at this time.
The Early Line. Only on SportsGrid.
In a short format tournament like this, like the Olympics, now this is even smaller, only 4 teams, who's got the best goaltending? You're talking 3 round robin games and then a knockout with 4 teams. So you're playing 5 games.
I'm not sold yet, Mike, on the USA stuff, on the merch, but I think I'm sold on the USA at least being in the final.
Only on SportsGrid.
Welcome back. Great to meet Andrew Strode right there and talk about his great win over Tyler Rookie Randall. A great fight for him, getting him into those rankings. Not over Tyler Rookie Randall somehow, even though you beat the guy sometimes. They don't give you enough respect to put you over him. That's what he's facing right now in that division. We'll see what comes down the line, though. If he gets a shot at Aguero or the title, we will see. That's what he wants. We'll see if that's what the BKFC gives him coming up next. Hopefully we'll see him back in there soon. But that fight card was not the only one that we had in these 2 weeks that we were waiting to do another show. We had a big fight up in Newcastle, fight night there this past weekend as well. A UK title on the line. The vacant cruiserweight title was up for grabs there between Rob Borman and Carl Thompson. So let's get right into it and talk about some of the great fights we had on this card, starting with that main event. Now, Thompson ends up getting the victory, round 1 TKO, 146 in to win that title. Both these guys were coming in undefeated. Boardman 6-0, Thompson 3-0. Both guys throwing big early on, and it was actually Thompson swinging a little more wildly and getting dropped 20 seconds into a knee. But that would not be the end. He gets back up. He goes back, right back at it against Boardman. Both guys swinging big in close range again. Boardman gets clipped. Thompson jumps on him and sends him to a knee now. That's now 1 apiece. Back even in this fight. And then Boardman decided that was going... that he was going to, come after him. He was going to try to fight off his opponent there, fighting for dear life, and it just wasn't enough as Thompson continues to beat him up, and eventually, later in that round, Boardman just starts covering up as he realizes there's nothing he can do but protect himself, takes a bunch more damage until the ref jumps in there and stops the fight, and Thompson, even though he got knocked down first in that fight, becomes the new cruiserweight champion for the BKFC UK. You also had an interesting fight at middleweight between Pick Jardine and Tony Shields. Shields coming out there very cocky, very, look at me, talking trash in that fight. And I think that cost him as Pick Jardine gets the unanimous decision victory, 49-46 on 2 judges' scorecards, 50-45 on 1. Now, I thought Shields did good in the first round despite, all his trash talking and his gamesmanship to avoid some big shots by Jardine and, get some decent shots in there himself. I even gave him that round. Now, if you look at the scorecards there, one of them didn't. In the second round, Jardine starts going to work. He finds his range and doesn't get brought into the games, doesn't play with with his opponent there in Shields and just focuses on landing those shots. Comes forward aggressively, starts landing some good shots on Shields, and starts to close down later in the round as he lands the big shots. Shields was landing too, but much less power than Jardine. So as Jardine's landing those big shots, starts to look maybe a little gassed, maybe in trouble, but going after that second round, it's all tied up in my book. Third round, Shields continues to start talking smack and continues to get punched in the face for it. Jardine still coming forward, being the aggressor, landing his shots, much the same. Give him round 3. Round 4, Jardine again with the power. Shields more speed, but his punches aren't landing hard enough to really shake his opponent to do that damage that was being done to him. So again, that round went to Jardine. And then round 5, Shields avoiding a lot of shots, and he's hamming it up, but he's also not throwing. So I don't know what he thought was going on or what his corner thought was going on. At best, he's down, he's tied up 2-2. At worst, he's down 3-1. Instead, he's acting like he's up all 4 rounds. And that cost him because Jardine kept on focus, kept doing what he needs to do to come forward and pick his part opponent, and he gets the victory, the round, and moves on now. And Shields maybe learns that it's great getting the crowd into it, but the one you really got to impress are the judges, and that's what Jardine did as a little bit more veteran with the BKFC. You also had a good welterweight bout between Paul Cook and Adam Grogan, where Cook gets the win, the 4th round TKO there. He came forward aggressive early and dropped Grogan the first 20 seconds. Grogan kept coming forward, both guys landing, but Cook drops him again. So not only is it a 10-8 round, now it's a 10-7 round for Cook. Well behind the 8 ball there for Grogan. Cook got more and more shots on Grogan in that half clinch throughout the rest of that fight. That really was the difference, is that Grogan was trying to land from distance, and he was getting some decent shots, but Cook was getting in that half tie clinch and just pulling his opponent into shots left and right, especially those uppercuts. And that's what really does it in that 4th round, that Cook drops him for the 3rd time. And despite Grogan getting back up, he jumped right back up, even though he was dropped by a good uppercut out of that clinch. It looks like he's out on his feet. He's kind of wobbling around, not steady on the feet. That's enough for the ref. He jumps in there, stops the fight, and Cook gets the 4th round TKO victory. And to finish things up here before we get out of here, great battle at heavyweight, Dickinson versus Gregory. Neither of these guys should really be heavyweights. They're weighted at 209 and 218. So you can keep fighting at that heavyweight. You better put on some weight. Dickinson gets the win by 2nd round TKO. Gregory was throwing some big shots early, but Dickinson just had great pure boxing there, picking his opponent apart throughout the fight, throughout the first 2 rounds. Probably got the 1st round, probably got the 2nd round, and the corner stops it for Gregory in between, saying, no mas, that's the end. And Dickinson gets the victory out there in Newcastle over Pond.
Slow play drum beat grows louder and louder every week, to the point now that they're making overt references to it on the broadcast.
So there's plenty of other guys that have to get faster. Tom definitely is more deliberate in his conversations, always has been since he's been on tour. I just think about Joe Scavern, when those two started working together, how their conversations always seem to just keep on going and going.
The Smiley Show, only on SportsGrid.
At some point, these 80s are going to learn we don't need to hire ex-NBA guys. I need guys with college experience, who's gone out and recruited, who knows how to develop talent. NBA guys with no college experience don't work in college basketball. I understand they run NBA-style offenses, but it doesn't mean they can run college programs.
Betting above the rim, only on SportsGrid.
In a short format tournament like this, like the Olympics, now this is even smaller, only 4 teams, who's got the best goaltending? Over, you're talking 3 round robin games and then a knockout with 4 teams. So you're playing 5 games.
I'm not sold yet, Mike, on the USA stuff, on the merch, but I think I'm sold on the USA at least being in the final.
Only on SportsGrid.
Patino himself, in a clip that we just played, said basically the stats are not backing up the team's wins.
St. John's is offensive glass. That's where a lot of opportunities for St. John's came from. St. John's does not shoot the basketball well. It might even be fair to say they shoot it poorly. They were 3 of 16 from deep last night, but it doesn't seem to matter to them.
Newswire. only on SportsGrid.
One shot.
One shot to prove I am the champion.
One shot to prove that I belong with the best.
One shot at greatness.
One shot to accomplish their goal. Who will meet the moment? Coming this April, the PFL changes the game again. The $20 million PFL World Tournament. The best MMA fighters from around the world.
Oh my goodness!
Single elimination. One shot to survive.
Oh! First round finish!
8 weight classes, 8 fighters in each, with just one shot to realize their dream.
One shot to make the grind pay off.
Wow!
One shot for my family.
Oh! Right left!
Uma chance para inspirar meu país.
The PFL World Tournament. Single elimination. One shot to become the champion.
There you go. The promo released there by the PFL promoting this upcoming season. As we said before, the tournaments are completely changing, going more back to the ways of Bellator, even though Bellator is no more, where it's just a straight bracket. You got 4 fights to win till the title and win that $500,000 that you can get on top of course, your bonuses that you're making throughout the different fights to get there. We're looking forward to it. And the PFL finally releasing some of the brackets. They're going to continue to do that over the next couple weeks. Why don't we talk about the 2 that we know of right now? And that is starting with the welterweight division, 170 pounds. There's going to be a bunch of names there that you recognize. Let's start hitting on some of those now. Guys like Andrei Korshkov. He's been in Bellator for a long time, PFL, with fights like against guys like Douglas Lima. You also have Jonas Bashar from Greece. You have Kakuri Masayuki from Japan and Makumed Rakamamov from Russia. And then let's talk about some of the other ones that you know there. Some names that we have seen before, both in Bellator and the PFL. Jason Jackson represent Jamaica right there. Of course, the ass-kicking machine. Former Bellator world champion and top 10 world-ranked fighter. He's going to enter as the favorite in this one. And I got to have advantage over a lot of these guys having fought in Bellator, having fought in these kind of things before. But he's got wins over guys like Paul Daly, Neiman Grayson, Benson Henderson. He has a good birth of experience there from, of course, his days in Bellator winning that title. He's going to go against guys like Magomed Umalatov, who, of course, we just saw recently fighting for the title for the PFL last season. Got his first ever loss there against Musayev. There was a tough fight there. Both those guys undefeated. He gets the loss, but he's been around for a while. He's fought PFL for years. Beat guys like Brendan Ward, beat guys like Koreshkov, Neiman Gracie. So this is a guy, again, who has a lot of experience. Leandro Silva. He's going to know what to do in a tournament format, know how to go through a bunch of fights, and, we'll see what is up for him after his first loss. Some guys make an easy recovery from that. Some guys, that shakes them for a little bit. So we'll see. I don't think it's going to shake Umalatov because that guy is dangerous. That guy is fierce. That guy can beat you up any which way. So he's going to be another guy that's going to be probably one of the favorites or, top of the line in that one. We'll start to see when odds are released on these who actually is making the list as the favorites. And then we'll see when the matchups come out who starts to be betted on as well. You also have Logan Storley from the U.S. We've seen him many times, of course, as well in the PFL and Bellator over the years, fighting guys like Michael Venom Page, where he won the split decision for the title. We'll see if he can get back into the title picture here, winning this tournament. Then, also, the last one that we haven't mentioned there is Florim Zendeli, the Albanian, who was the 2024 PFL Europe champion. Now he moves up and looks to go on the world stage with this one, just like Dakota Ditchford, going from Europe to regular title in the PFL. That's what he wants to do. We'll see if we can get that coming for him after he just won that European title. So a stacked roster there at welterweight for that tournament. Also, what they have released, featherweight. Another situation where you have a bunch of names that you have seen before in the PFL and Bellator, and there should be some interesting matchups that we can get out of this. Let's talk first about Jesus Pinedo from Peru, Of course, he's the biggest star in MMA out of Peru, looking to get his 2003 PFL title run repeated. He won the title there. Didn't have that same success last year, but he brought that title home to Peru. People loved it. Got a lot of money. Now looking to make a bunch more and looking to put an even bigger stamp on his record as another champion with the PFL. Also, Nathan Kelly, who we just saw from Ireland fighting on that Ireland versus Dagestan card. Now, it didn't go that way for him as it did for actually a lot of the Irish fighters had problems on that card. If we're going to be blunt with it, I think most of them actually lost to the Dagestanis. So he's looking for retribution. He's looking for recovery as well, getting back into this tournament at featherweight, trying to make his name again with the PFL and erase from people's memories what just happened there for him in the road to Dubai. Also on this card, Adam Borics. Boric from Hungary, of course, was an exciting Bellator fighter. Started off his career 4-0 with them. Then got his first loss, then went on another winning streak. Now coming back from injury again after he had to withdraw from last year's PFL season due to an injury. I believe it was an ankle injury. We're going to talk to him next week about his fight, about coming back from the injury, what he thinks about this tournament. But he's involved in this one now, trying to get back on the winning ways as well. And then we'll also see a bunch of guys like Jeremy Kennedy from Canada. You'll see Taekwon Kim from South Korea, Gabriel Braga from Brazil, Yves Landau from France, who we just saw. We mentioned he was signed a couple weeks ago when they were first announcing this. He was one of the guys that they brought out there as already signed for this tournament before they even announced all these. So he's going to be in the mix for that as will a guy like Movlid Kaibulov, the Russian, the killer, who won the PFL World Championship back in 2023, now coming back from injury to prove he's one of the most feared fighters in a weight class. So a couple guys in this system, in this weight class that won in 2023, didn't have things go their way in 2024, whether it be injury or just they didn't get the wins that they needed. Now looking for redemption here through this featherweight tournament. It is going to be awesome. As we said, we're going to hear over the next couple weeks from the PFL 2 divisions a week, I believe, and we'll start to talk to some of the fighters as they get ready for this new and improved PFL tournament. No more regular season and playoffs, straight bracket tournament, Grand Prix style, like we used to see with Bellator. So, when you look at these names, there are a bunch of guys that I'm very excited about, as we talked about, with that welterweight division. Jason Jackson and Umalatov, those guys are going to be heavy favorites. I don't know the odds yet. Obviously, we're just getting these as they've just been released, but we'll start to look into that and look into those for you to see where the value is. Once we see the matchups, of course, that's going to be a big part of it. That's what we can't forget either. You're going to see futures maybe on these fighters to win the tournament, but until you see the matchups, it's kind of hard to predict who's going to, possibly take this, because not only are you fighting things like injury, but it's all about the style. You could have a guy like Jackson who you think is, or Molotov who could be the best and should be, in the finals, but maybe they end up matched up in the semis instead, and now you're taking away one of your top prize fighters there. But those guys will definitely be some of the favorites. Looking forward to seeing the matchups and breaking that down NCAA tournament style with you. Featherweight, if you're looking at it just from the names, I think a guy like Yves Landau or a guy like Pinedo have to be the ones that stand out the most as possible champions in this division of this tournament. Of course, as we said, depending on the matchups, but all that will start kicking off for us in April. As you saw in the promo before we got into this, you got fights in April. You're going to keep going on, I think, September. I'm going to finish it off at the end of the year with the championships. It is going to be throughout the year. There you go. April, June, September. That's where we're going to get all these things going on, and it's going to be awesome, and can't wait to see it all. And different money-wise here, $500,000 as a bonus to the champion. It is no longer a cool mill, just that's what you want and all your purses are taken out of it. It's now you get your fight purse throughout tournament, and then you get $500,000 on top of it if you win. So that is going to be a big payday for anybody. That's a huge bonus for anybody who wins this tournament. Can't wait for it all to kick off on April. As you saw there, it's going to be on the ESPN family of networks, so you don't have to get a bunch of extra streaming services. It's going to be there for all of you to watch coming up in a couple weeks. Can't wait to see more and more of these as they break them out for us through the PFL.
Your gut says Miami is going to win, and you should take the over. Your gut also said your NFT selfies would only go up in value. They didn't. But your head is on SportsGrid and knows the QB is in concussion protocol. The backup has a 45 QBR against the zone coverage. The New York D has the most sacks in the league. So yeah, trust your head. It's smarter to be on SportsGrid.
Anyone that's been to a sporting event, the atmosphere before a game, I think Game Time Decisions has that same exact atmosphere. This is our arena. This is what we do. There is going to be an energy to Game Time Decisions that you will feel night in and night out. The excitement you get when you lock your bets in, when you're figuring out what you want to do, we can zone in on the biggest games each night. I want this to be the place that people come to before the games start so they feel as ready as possible to lock in their cards. We are going to hit every single one of those markets that you need to know about. We're gonna go through every single thing, and I've got a great team behind me that's gonna help me get the job done. There is not gonna be a better place, I promise you, than Game Time Decisions to get that new information, react to it, and be able to then bet accordingly. We will have everything at our disposal, and we will use that to our advantage. I'm Kevin Walsh. Tune into Game Time Decisions from 6 to 8 p.m. Eastern on SportsGrid.
The two guys that can do it all.
Too much electricity this morning.
This is a good time. We're having a lot of fun.
I had to do a triple take.
Ka-ching!
Why? Because of parity.
I didn't mean to offend.
Yeah, it's not going to happen.
Load management is a dirty word.
Let him rip.
You know what? Circumstances provide the results. What?
How do you do this one?
Oh, Donnie, you got such a good show there.
A network that is booming.
The Early Line, only on SportsGrid.
Welcome back into the Combat Sports Report here on Sports, because we shift gears and go out west to California, where we just had another card put on by Lights Out Extreme Fighting. A great job by Sean Merriman and crew as they continue to promote some of the best athletes out there on the West Coast in the fight game. And one of those great fights was put on between Royce Butler and Corbin Allen. And we bring on Royce Butler right now victorious with the third round stoppage with the ground and pound. Royce, thanks so much for joining us. We appreciate your time. Great victory for you. Before we get into the fight itself, this was your first fight for LXF. What drew you to Lights Out Extreme Fighting? What was it that made you want to fight for the organization? How'd you feel your first run with them went?
I had a couple buddies that fought for them before, and I liked their promotion, how they televise everything is like on a real professional level. And yeah, so we found an opportunity to fight for them, and we just jumped on it. And yeah, I was happy with the victory. Yeah, and I like their show and like to be a part of it again.
We're looking forward to seeing what's next for you with it after this great win you fought Corbin Allen. It was a tough fight in the beginning. You know, I watched the fight the first round. He was kind of frustrating with those takedowns. You know, you had a couple that you stopped, but he was, you know, determined to get you to the mat one way or the other with that, and just kept trying to drag you down. A couple of them, you got a good spin. You ended up, you know, on the top yourself. But what was it like, you know, in that part of the fight early on? And your first fight in this organization, this guy just basically wrapped around you like an anaconda, just trying to drag you down over and over.
Yeah, I knew he was a good wrestler because like all his fights he wrestles in a 5-win streak, 6-2. I didn't know how strong he was going to be, but that dude's pretty strong. That dude's really strong actually for that weight class. And yeah, and then he just glued to me. I couldn't really get him off of me. It was like a different feeling. I have a couple guys in the gym that are heavier that feels like that, but like for him to be the same weight as me, yeah, it was kind of a shocking feeling.
Well, you started finding your rhythm and your range in that second round. That right hand, that straight right, is the one that kept doing the most damage to him. Of course, you know, other punches were working as well. What do you think was the biggest change between that first and second round that you were able to keep him at bay, keep him at distance, and start to use, you know, the great striking you had? Do you think he just gassed himself out in that first with all the takedown attempts, or what was it you think that really started to turn the tide there?
I think, yeah, all the takedowns and not getting it, taking me down every single time. I think that played a big factor too. And then just me and my coaches sticking to the game plan and believing in my striking and then all the work that we put in and everybody that helped us with the camp, they all prepped me for this moment. So I think that was a big factor too.
Well, you certainly did a great job. You knocked him down a couple times there in that second. You started to find that with that right. You continued on in the third. You got the good shots in there. At what point did you know you had it? You had the big shot in the second that got him down, and he was kind of holding on for dear life of the legs there. You're trying to get free before you finally able. He recovered a little bit. Looked like he got back in form a little bit, but then that third round, once you started catching him, it was just over from there. At what point did you know that you had him? Was it in between that second and third round? Was it not until you started the ground and pound in the third? When did you have that, that knowledge that was over?
I knew I was going to win once I caught him. I was actually surprised how I caught him. I didn't think he was going to fall. And then my coach always tells me, if you could catch him one time, you could catch him again. So don't rush it. So, I just like, if I caught him one time, I could catch him again. Maybe not in the second, but in the third round, for sure, I'm going to put my foot on the gas and I'll catch him again. But for sure in the third, when I heard him and he got back up, I was like, you know what? I'm going to just push the pace because he doesn't want to be in here with me. And that's how I knew I could get him out of there.
Well, you did show that great patience. You're more focused on getting out of the takedown than just kind of, raining down the punches there and hoping for the end. So it was great patience by you throughout that fight. Not just that first round when you were fighting off that takedowns, it continued again, even after you started to have more and more success throughout the fight. So it was a great job by you, a great use of that stand-up and showing us the power that you have in that right hand. And we're looking forward to seeing what is coming up next for you in Lights Out Extreme Fighting. Have you had talks with Sean already about coming back? I know you said you want to fight for them again. Have there already been talks with them about when you can come back or how soon you want to be back in there?
I'm not sure. I got to talk to my coach. I haven't been to the gym yet. I'm going back to the gym next Monday. I'm not sure if my coach talked to them, but I haven't heard anything yet. But I'll probably find out next week when I get to the gym.
If it's up to you, how do you feel after that fight? How early are you looking to get back in there? I know last year, before you joined Lights Out this year, obviously, you're looking to fight over and over. I saw interviews saying, like, I'll fight every other weekend if I'm feeling good, if I'm feeling healthy. So what's the the outlook for 2025? Is that, the same kind of pedal to the metal that you're looking at right now?
Yeah, I want to get at least another 3-4 fights in this year. Physically, I feel fine. Legs are kind of a little sore, but nothing too crazy. And then basically, as long as I'm mentally prepared, I can keep fighting. So yeah, March 22nd, we could do that. But we'll see what other options are out there. And yeah, but I'm trying to get back in there later March, early April.
Well, we're looking forward to seeing when that is. It was a great fight for you. The victory over Corbin Allen. Royce Butler, thanks so much for joining us. A great debut for you with Lights Out Extreme Fighting, and we're looking forward to seeing what is coming up next for you.
Thank you. Thanks for having me. Appreciate it. Appreciate you guys.
You saw him fight for Lights Out on Lights Out Extreme Fighting 22. We can't wait to see what's next. Like we said, it was really a battle, that fight, as we talked about it was grappling versus striking. It's sometimes the styles make fights, and whoever can control that is the one that ends up with the victory. If you were just watching that first round, you probably thought that Corbin Allen was going to be the guy to come out with his hand raised, the way that he was on his back, the way that he was trying to drag him down. But, sometimes all that work of working on those takedowns empties the gas tank a little bit, as we'll talk about coming up when we recap this fight even more. And it was a different fight after that. Great job by Royce to outweight him, to be patient, to not get frustrated and start doing the kind of things that would open things up for what Allen wanted him to do, and instead waiting till he got his opportunity, as he did, and he eventually took that fight over and put on a great performance. So good job by him. Good job by everybody at Lights Out for a great card that we're going to recap coming up next. It was awesome to watch that on the Lights Out app. Anybody who has not had that yet, if you're watching this show and you haven't got it, I don't know what's wrong with you. It's not just Lights Out Extreme Fighting. There's plenty of things on there, including SportsGrid, including many other things, many other sports. So it's kind of a one-stop shop for a lot of things. A great way to watch the show, and a great way to watch Lights Out Extreme Fighting, which we all did. Anybody who wasn't in the California area was able to do. When we come back, we'll recap that fight a little bit more, as well as the main event, tell you what else happened out there in California this past weekend for LXF 22.
At some point, these 80s are going to learn we don't need to hire ex-NBA guys. I need guys with college experience who's gone out and recruited, who know how to develop talent. NBA guys with no college experience don't work in college basketball. I understand they run NBA-style offenses, but it doesn't mean they can run college programs.
Betting above the rim, only on SportsGrid.
Two guys that can do it all.
Too much electricity this morning.
This is a good time. We're having a lot of fun.
I had to do a triple take.
Ka-ching!
Why? Because of parity.
I didn't mean to offend.
Yeah, it's not going to happen.
Load management is a dirty word.
Let him rip.
You know what? Circumstances provide the results. What?
How do you do this one?
Oh, Donnie, you got such a good show there.
A network that is booming.
The Early Line, only on SportsGrid.
In a short format tournament like this, like the Olympics, now this is even smaller, only 4 teams. Who's got the best goaltending? Over, you're talking 3 round robin games and then a knockout with 4 teams. So you're playing 5 games.
I'm not sold yet, Mike, on the USA stuff, on the merch, but I think I'm sold on the USA at least being in the final.
Only on SportsGrid.
Welcome back to the Combat Sports Report as we wrap up another episode here on SportsGrid. Thank you, everyone, for joining us. Thank you to the guests that we had on the show today. Of course, talking about the great fights they had. We had Andrew Legend Strode talking about his win over Rookie Randall over there at the Mohegan Sun fight back at the beginning of the month. We also talked to Lights Out flyweight Royce Butler getting a win this past weekend in his debut for LXF 22. A great win for him, a great comeback there in that fight. And we're going to break down those fights in just a minute. Great fights from the BKFC we got to recap. Great announcements for the PFL about some of these fighters that are going to be involved in this tournament. Looking forward to more of that coming out. We'll be back with you, of course, next week. A bunch of fights that we haven't even gotten to being announced over the last couple weeks for the BKFC. So we'll be announcing more PFL brackets and fighters. We'll be announcing more BKFC fights and breaking down some initial thoughts on those and talking about the latest news in Lights Out Extreme Fighting coming up next week as well. But before we get out of here, let's talk about what we just had this past weekend for LXF 22 out there in California. Now, of course, Jordan Merriman was out there running around Media Row out at Super Bowl talking about these. We had him on SportsGrid on a couple of our shows with Scott Farrell and I believe Gabe Morency as well. And just a great job by him promoting the sport, promoting his organization. And they put on a great fight card once again, starting with the top. We talked a couple weeks ago, of course, to the headliner in this fight, Tony Cortez versus Alex Arteaga. Cortez, said that he's going to beat him up. He had full confidence that he was going to beat Arteaga, who's kind of coming in here with a much lesser record than Cortez, who was undefeated. And he did just that. It was no joke. Cortez coming in there and just dominating throughout this fight. He was coming forward, stalking Arteaga throughout, dropped him 2 minutes in, let him back up, dropped him again another minute later, then drops him again late in the fight. And while Arteaga is trying to get back up, while he's trying to avoid taking another beating, you see there, Cortez tried to pull a submission. That was actually earlier in the fight that Arteaga gets out of. But later on, after he gets him down to the mat again, gets him in another chokehold, and as Arteaga gets back up, holds onto the choke and gets the standing submission there really just before the round ended. I don't know, how deep it was on Arteaga. I don't know, how present he was as to the, what was left on the clock. But, if he could have held on for another 5 seconds, might have gotten to a second round, but he does not. He taps out to that deep choke that Cortez had in there, and Cortez moves to 5-0 with the victory there for the BKFC. A great dominating performance by him. He said he was going to pop this lemon killer like a lemon, and he did just that. Even squeezed him. He called it. If you were watching the broadcast, Bulletproof Troop was even saying like he thought that he could have finished the fight earlier, that almost like he was messing with him at times and getting the most he could out of this round that he fought him. But he does get the victory, and we will see what is next for Tony Cortez with Lights Out Extreme Fighting. Could be a very bright future for him, whether it's with LXF or whether he moves on to other organizations in the near future. But hopefully we'll see him in the cage again soon. And then, as we talked about with Royce Butler, we had that flyweight bout between Butler and Corbin Allen. It was a tale of two fights, really. The first round was, I'm not going to say all Allen, because Butler did a good job at times of avoiding some takedowns, even spinning around and almost ending up on top in a few of them. But for the most part, it was Allen grabbing Butler, trying to take him down, trying to drag him down, kind of like, the alligator with his food. He just latched on and was just trying to outweight his opponent, trying to get him to the mat, trying to out-wrestle, out-grapple him, and just tire him out. I mean, in the end, I think what it did was tire him out. I thought it tired Allen out. I thought that it was a different fight then after that round. When they separate, they go to their corners, they come back in, and all of a sudden, Allen's not going for the takedowns as much. I don't know if he just didn't have it in the gas tank. You even heard the broadcasters, question that, like why in certain times was he not dropping, trying to get for the takedown? Maybe he just didn't have the energy to make that transition anymore after all the work he put in the first round. And because of that, Royce Butler just starts to pick him apart, especially with that straight right. That kept finding a home throughout those 2 rounds. Just some good, clean boxing from him. Had him in trouble midway through that second round where he caught Allen, who falls to the mat, goes into desperation mode, and just kind of hangs on for dear life, is able to survive. It took about a minute for Butler to get free of him and try to start throwing again. So Allen was able to recover a little bit. But then in the third round, getting picked apart again, another right drops him and then just starts getting ground and pounded on, just covering up. And the ref jumps in there and says, that's enough. Royce Butler with the comeback, probably lost the first round, but then showed why he is so tough and going to be formidable for anybody to face now, getting the victory in his LXF debut at LXF 22. Looking forward to hopefully seeing him back with the organization as well and getting back into another great fight. Also on that card, let's recap some of the other fights that happened. You had Luciano Ramos getting a win over Ryan Lilly by submission, a standing Darce choke in the second round. Yeah, that was at 140 pounds. 135 pounds, of course, Israel Salazar defeated Bandai Quiros by TKO with a ground and pound in the second round. At 125, you had Andrew Russell beating Juan Severin by submission with a guillotine token round 1. And at 140 pounds, you had Pepe Miller defeating Kuzumana Onji by TKO in round 2. So a bunch of finishes on that card, just what the fans pay for. A great fight card by LXF. Great show by us. Thanks so much for watching. We'll see you next week here on SportsGrid.
At some point, these 80s are going to learn we don't need to hire ex-NBA guys. I need guys with college experience who's gone out and recruited, who knows how to develop talent. NBA guys with no college experience don't work in college basketball. I understand they run NBA-style offenses, but it doesn't mean they can run college programs.
Betting above the rim, only on SportsGrid.
Two guys that can do it all.
Too much electricity this morning.
This is a good time. We're having a lot of fun.
I had to do a triple take.
Ka-ching!
Why? Because of parity.
I didn't mean to offend.
Yeah, it's not going to happen.
Load management is a dirty word.
Let him rip.
You know what? Circumstances provide the results.
What? How do you do this once?
Oh, Donnie, you got such a good show there.
A network that is booming.
The Early Line, only on SportsGrid.
In a short format tournament like this, like the Olympics, now this is even smaller, only 4 teams. Who's got the best goaltending? You're talking 3 round robin games and then a knockout with 4 teams. So you're playing 5 games.
I'm not sold yet, Mike, on the USA stuff, on the merch, but I think I'm sold on the USA at least being in the final.
Only on SportsGrid.